I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Nice.
Been an interesting day. So, man, cool. Nice to finally meet you. Welcome to the
Nice to
Rooster
meet you.
Show.
Yeah.
Um, so, tell me about yourself, man. Where are you from? Where you live? And tell us about
Well,
yourself a little bit.
I my name is my project is called Spoils of Grace. I live in a small city town shithole called Kamloops, BC in Canada. And there's not a lot going on here really. A lot of homeless people, a lot of weird middle class people that think that they're rich. Uh, I work here. I have my house here. I have my studio, and you know, spent most of my life here.
Spent most.
And I don't know.
Okay, I was going to ask if that's where you were from. So awesome.
I wasn't born here. I was born in Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver. Okay, I've been there before. Been there
It's
once.
pretty good. It holds a lot for me as well. I got a lot of stuff. A lot of time spent there. A lot of stuff from my past. It's a kind of a heavy place for me to go sometimes. So I don't really make the trip too often, but sometimes I see old friends there, and it's good. That's kind of what keeps me going back there.
I hear you. Gotcha. So, where'd you get your name, Spoils of Grace, from?
Well, fuck. I mean, it's hard to find a name these days. It's really hard to
That's
get a
true.
name.
Yeah, it's
Everything's,
very
and then, if you find one that isn't taken, it's like, is it symbiotic to the vision of what for the music, or does it represent what your music represents? Because industrial, it's like, I mean, industrial as a genre, there's a lot of like different sort of styles of that, right?
so many.
Um, yeah, just so many different kinds. There's like the really, really techie stuff, really super futuristic looking, sounding kind of music. My music's not really like that. I wanted something that didn't sound like like something like Frontline Assembly or any of those kinds of names where it's like a fucking mech warrior kind of sounding thing. I didn't really want that, so I took a while to think about it. But Spoils of Grace kind of came from the idea that grace is what God bestowed upon mankind, not because He created them or because He had to, but just simply because He loved them. And the spoils part comes in because there's the spoils of war, and once the battle has been won, the victor of the battle comes in and steals or pilfers or whatever's over, and those are the spoils of war, right? So spoils of
Yeah.
grace is kind of like what the idea is, like what man has done with that God has bestowed upon them simply because he so supposedly loved them.
Wow,
So
that's pretty
yeah,
deep. I was not expecting that answer. That's a pretty deep answer.
yeah.
Very good. Very good,
it
man.
wasn't it wasn't taken.
It wasn't
So
taken.
yeah.
That's a good point. So what's your inspiration? What's your
Oh
inspiration with the
God,
band?
inspiration, like,
And
well,
your inspiration and
I'm pretty.
what do you plan for it's basically like kind of a two-parter. What's your inspiration and what's your plans for the band and like a goal for the band, basically.
Well, right now the band is just me.
Yeah.
So it's not a live act yet. It's just literally been the last 3 years I've since I started it. It's just me in the studio troubleshooting, learning how to sound engineer, teaching myself through trial and error. I'm not a very tech savvy person. People say things like, "Oh, why don't you download this plugin or do this or that, or maybe even get a computer mouse?" Like I've never. It's really, really fun. I've used probably the most outdated forms of recording software for a long time. It doesn't get dates because it's pirated. Everything I've done has been on a cheap laptop, and all of the instruments I've used or anything that I've done to get sounds has all been through hardware, live tracks through hardware, either direct in or recorded through a microphone and an amplifier. Don't use. I have tried, but I mean, it takes something that kills the soul of it. Sometimes is the MIDI aspect of it, where you programming. Mostly the things that I program is drums, but I'm still pretty naive when it comes to um, so, like you make a pattern, and then you have to separate each instrument on your screen on your project. I can't even figure out how to do that, and I don't really have anybody to show me anything. So I end up finding ways to jimmy rig my way around everything to create the sound. And it's cool though, because it gives it sort of an old tape style of recording. Like, I mean, I'm not
Okay.
using reels to tape everything live, but the way that I do it is, creating sort of things and creating background textures and playing everything live by hand and then pasting it all together, managing to,
So,
yeah, everything's very DIY. Everything's very DIY. I don't of, I know, I know, I know a lot about synths, but I also don't know a lot about synthesizers. Like I'm just starting to break in, linking different
none.
patches together, making your own patches and do that kind of stuff. It's a lifetime of experience. You have to work really hard at it. Lots of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. Probably a lot of those hours didn't have to be so long. With me, I'm like a school of hard knocks kind of guy. I always have to way. Yeah.
Well,
Anyways, the band. I put a band probably next year to start playing some live
oh,
shows.
wonderful. That'd be
So the
awesome.
track Yeah, so the tracks I'm designing now are I'm making some backing tracks because like I say, I kind of figure I have a vision of how I'm going to pull it off, and I'm just kind of like going by what I've seen industrial groups do.
Yeah.
Have a backing track and then have enough members in the band that you can make it work, pull it off live. And then it's a matter of finding the right people.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
hard.
That believe the
Yeah.
same way you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was checking out some of your stuff earlier. Lucifer Wears Leather and
Yeah.
Firestore, Get Down, Spit Me Out. Well, you got some good stuff, man. Really. Yeah, you're very talented.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, man.
what's so funny is I was kind of laughing because I have a side project at Rising Underground, and it's what you were saying about doing everything live is exactly the way I did it. I did it layer upon layer every time. Like I would like have the drums already done with the bass line, and then okay, now it's time to put some keyboard onto it. So I'll do the keyboard and play the drums and the bass while I'm recording that with the keyboard also onto another
Yeah.
layer. And then, okay, there's that. Okay, now I got to do the guitar on top of all those and record the guitar live on
Yeah.
all those. So I know exactly
Because
what you're saying, and I just recently started learning how to put them in different layers. I use a program that's actually free, and I've used it for many years. It's called Audacity, and
yeah, yeah, I've heard.
it's actually amazing, and it has a lot of effects on it. It has you can put like 10, 15 layers of stuff on it, tracks upon
Mm,
tracks, and mix them all together and put it and then export it into whatever format you want. Stuff for iTunes, for anything. So it's
I
pretty
think,
amazing. Something to check out.
yeah,
And if you need help going through it, I can kind of guide a little bit and help you out with a little bit of that I learned from somebody. And but yeah, it's that's the way
I
I
haven't
usually
learned,
do it too.
I haven't learned anything from anybody. I've just literally once I put my first instrument into the first track live input, put it right into the interface and just fucking around with a cheap synth and stuff. Figured out how I could do more than one of those.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
best. And I'm still obsessed. It's basically all I do now. And I'm like, it's also the toll in some ways because it's really literally all I give a fuck about.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
just will,
I get you.
you know, stay home and watch horror movies and get ideas and record every fucking day. Right now I'm working on my full length album and it's taken me nearly a year and it's got everything in it. It's like the best piece I've ever fucking worked on in my out of all the stuff that I've worked on. It's got a bit of everything in it, but
Wonderful.
it's a lot of it's never really ready, right? Like I keep going back, listening to it millions of times, seeing spots where I could add something in there to
Yeah,
it
yeah,
or change it, make it so that it's ready. Because you're only going to do it once, and once you're this far into it, like there's kind of no turning back, and you don't just want to spit it out and it's not ready, or you feel like you're not satisfied with it. So,
exactly.
however it takes, right, is how long it takes. But
Yeah, yeah, I
I'm
hear you.
using I've never downloaded a plugin in my entire life, and I've
Oh
done
no.
everything with my fingers. I've never used a computer mouse to any of this shit. I did it all on this little touchpad that's on my laptop. It's totally stuck in my ways. I won't budge. People are like, "Get a fucking mouse." I'm like, just it's not the same. You don't get the
Oh,
feeling.
dude.
Yeah,
I like you more and more, man. The more you talk, the more I like you. Seriously. I mean, just that's obviously that just shows you the passion that you have for your music, and for the people that you're gonna play it for when you end up doing it live, it's
yeah. Well, I
awesome.
hope so. Yeah, I hope I can get the right members. That's the main thing. Is it's hard to find, especially in a town, right? All kinds of friggin' guitar heroes and all kinds of people like they want to they get the wrong idea.
Yeah.
And I'm in a punk band as well, and we've had a lot going on in the last year, and I mean usually when I play live it's with them, right, with Voltage, that's what we're called.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
A good drummer that is a friend of mine. His name's Jason Bassett. I don't know if you ever heard that name, but he played with 16 volts. He played with oh my gosh,
No, they're really good actually.
yeah. He
Well,
toured with Frontline Assembly.
okay.
So I mean, he's a good guy. He lives in L.A. But
Nice. Yeah.
I'll connect you guys, and maybe see if you guys could do something. But he has a band called Sounds of Mass Production (SMP), and they're
Okay.
pretty darn good. I saw a live show of one time, and he was using a grinder, a metal, just a big old freaking hand grinder, and sparks going everywhere, and they were using
Yeah.
almost like a guitar sound effect, and it was amazing. And then he kicked in with the drums and all that. It was pretty intense. He's a really good band, so I'll kind of
I
connect
mean,
you
I listened
guys.
to and I was drawn to that group because of they got like such classic sounding like old school industrial drums in their
Yeah,
music. It's the same band I'm thinking of.
yeah.
15 Bolt. I think it's them. Yeah.
And he also used to drum with Kim Lab too.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a pretty he knows some people. So you already described your process of your music, so that which is amazing. I love it, doing it nice and raw. What is your most challenging part when you are creating?
Um, trying not to. Well, okay. Overworking a song is a big, like, has been more of a problem in the past than it is now. I've kind of learned how it's like like kind of like shooting pool. When you get that first good mix, you're building this tracks from the ground up, and you get that first good mix. If you think too hard about it, or you make it into something like, say you have your song with, it's loaded to the gills, like you're like 30 tracks in on one song and everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you hear something, you're like, oh fuck, that sounds so killer, I wish my song could sound that good, and you go back into your mix around with a bunch of stuff, and then the next minute, you've ruined it, or you've gone too far down a rabbit hole. That used to be a big problem. It's not so much anymore. From time to times get stuck on a song for like months or something, and you keep going back going, fuck, this sucks, it's not good enough, comparing it to the acts you have, it's not good enough. And if you work it long enough, sometimes it comes out the other end in a good way, but a lot of times you end up with something you just do anything with, and you keep trying, you don't listen to it for like 3 months, and you keep trying to listen back, and it sounds like shit, or it just doesn't go anywhere. And then you have like, you're loaded with like 70 different instruments on 70 different tracks with like tons of different plugins trying to make it all work, but it doesn't fucking work. That's a problem. Also, just being unmotivated or depressed, that's another problem, trying to pass like the underlying feeling of like general hopelessness that you have, and just being like, why the fuck am I even doing this? Nobody really
I
talk
hear
about
you.
what you kind of externalize it and project a little bit. And, that's a problem for sure. I don't know, just basically trying to be something you're not. And that happens often. And I'll just admit it because, it's just like you're influenced by music, different bands that you've grown up with and stuff. And sometimes you end up not really knowing how to identify something good that's new coming out of yourself that, you can appreciate as good enough to be you,
Yeah.
original, it's your thing. And you pull too much influence from other projects, and then it ends up sounding like something that's not even you, or sounding like something that's already been done. That's really hard to do because everything's been done at this point for the most part,
For the most part, yeah, I
especially,
agree. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And to be original is a really difficult thing to do. All you can really do is kind of withdraw from everything as much as you possibly can, so you don't have any exposure to any outside influence, and then you're just on your own, working on your own, coming up with things and kind of going with what you personally think feels or sounds good, and then you can get something that's pure because it came only from you in that moment. Yeah, so try and just, especially when you don't have uh, a lot of experience doing this stuff, like things that are happening now, artists are insane. The technology people have for recording, and the skill level that a lot of the producers have, newer artists. There's so many unbelievably good, talented
Yeah,
people,
there
especially
is.
people that people that are just G's at putting sound together and making shit that just bangs, and everybody knows who they are. Or And so when you're rigging things in a studio in a small town, fucking freezing your ass off, like, it's hard to compete or to know. And especially now, there's so many artists out there. How do you know what's all out there? Even like, how do you know what's current and what's like? You got to have your ear to the ground so much. Like, how time do you have in a day to listen to every fucking song that comes out by a new artist that's brand new, you've never heard of? Like, to eats up all your time, eats up your space.
Welcome to my world right there.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's my world right there. As I'm always trying to listen to all the new stuff, and people are always feeding me with new punk bands and new goth rock bands, and industrial's not as big time, believe it or not, compared to goth and all that. There's a lot of goth bands. Oh boy, so many of them. It's
Well,
overwhelming actually because they just keep coming in dark wave and all this stuff. It's like, oh my lord, it blows my mind. It blows my computer, and it took up all the space on my phone too.
Yeah,
Downloading them all.
I'm 35 and just, I'm one of those people keeps going back to a lot of the shit that I just grew up on most of the time, and it's just like, because some of those albums that I listened to when I was young, I was like super young. I was like, oh, well, what made me love this the way I love it still, like what is it about this record that that is just unbeatable for me, compared to so many other things, current newer stuff that's coming out. And I try to examine those properties of each of the tracks or how those records were built from the ground, what they have going on in certain parts that gives it the character that it has. And I try to kind of like use those ideas or influences to bring out the character in my own stuff, and so when I'm recording the album I'm working on now, I'm like, does this have enough going on to offer the listener something substantial? Does this have enough in it then get the feeling, that I get when I listen to some of my favorite records from when I was younger? Does it invoke the same sort of like satisfaction? I guess I'm trying.
What I was
You
gonna
got
say
something to say?
is, yeah, well, just some like I was listening to early ministry today, Land of Rape and Honey,
Of
and Mine
course.
Is a Terrible
Yeah.
Thing to Taste. I was listening to
Yeah.
both those, jamming them at work, big time, like loud. And if you
Yeah.
really think
That shit.
about it, they're simple. If you remember Revolty Cox, the way basically, I'm getting at Al Jorgensen. It's like a lot of their stuff is really
That's
simple. The simplicity.
revolting. There's a million bands that are my favorite band, but when people ask me what my favorite band is, I tell them it's the Revoltics because I just love jamming that shit.
Oh, it's amazing. It's awesome. I love it too. I mean, it's just to cleanse the world, man. Just but they're if you really think about it, they were so simple. I mean, they would have the drum beat, little bass, some nice bass line, Paul Barker on bass going at it, and then good old heavy guitar, and then Al Jorgensen's wonderful voice, you know, and it's just they kept it really simple, but it was so influential. Probably Mine Is a Terrible Thing to Taste. I think is one of the best albums. But The Land of Rape and Honey is
It
actually really amazing in how it was very influential. I thought for a
well,
lot of industrial people.
it was simple. It was simple, especially with Revco, because it was simple because there was an element of naivety. They were young. They did know what the fuck was going on. They knew they were with it, but they weren't like in getting people to do shit for them that was like out of this world. There's punk in there, like especially with Rape and Honey.
Totally.
It's just a collage of sound, and there's a grittiness to it, and each track is kind of like it all goes to, but it's each track is kind of out of place a little bit, like aborted and stuff like that. It's just like this, like
Ooh.
it's almost like a porno jam or some shit. Like sounds like Hancock playing the fucking synthesizer and shit. It all fits together, and at that time nobody had done that particular sound, so it was like super advanced at that time for what it was, and also being on a major label that fucking harsh or gritty or wild out there and unconventional, that an interesting part too. And Mine Is a Terrible Thing to Taste, I think, is a little more advanced in sound and production wise, because obviously they were more experienced, and the quality a little crisper than The Land of Rape and Honey. Anyways,
Yeah.
Ministry's a great band. I've always loved just the whole idea of sound collage, a wall of sound, all kinds of different things triggering your mind. What the fuck is this? That's one of the things.
Oh yeah.
And there's
That's good.
the element of there's the element of diversity in what you want to call industrial music, which industrial, it's a great, I guess it's a cool name. Obviously, it sounds cool when you say it, industrial, right? But it's also industrial has so many different to it. It's like it literally is a collage of every fucking thing you can possibly imagine blended into one thing. So sky's the limit with it. You've got groups like the Tear Garden who are considered they're part of the industrial scene, and some of their stuff is very industrial, but then some of their stuff is very like poet, like heartfelt, or and you could put all that shit on the same record, and it still makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's with Kevin Key, right? Yeah, Tear Garden. Yeah, I think Kevin Key's in it.
The groups like Current 93 that are
They're good. I like it.
part of as well, and like, or a Test Department, how they have all their different sounds through all the different albums, right?
Yeah,
You
true.
know, Godot is a great album because it's got just like this traditional sound element. Of course, they use lots of bagpipes, and there's like lots of sort of. It sounds kind of like almost Nordic or something, like a Nordic sound to it, female vocals and singing, lots of sampling, lots of weird percussion and shit going on. It's a collage.
What's your go-to album?
Oh fuck, my go-to album.
Top five. Top five. I'll give you a break. Top five.
Top five. Okay.
That inspire you. That just make you decide. Okay, that's it. I gotta go do something. I gotta go jam.
Okay. One of them is Spiral, 9 Inch Nails, because that was I was 12 years old when I bought that cassette, and it's been a locked down thing for me. One. Um, Another one I grew up on, which was super important for me, actually came before the Downward Spiral. So 10 or 11 was Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson. Because when I went to Catholic school, I had to go to Catholic school. My parents sent me there. He's wearing ripped clothing. So they sent me to Catholic school, and thought that I was going to get the education that I earned. And I'm glad they sent me there, to be honest, because it fucking put me on the right path.
Yeah.
I went there, and it was like everything intensified. They were like, you can't do this, you can't do that, fucking, you can't wear this, you can't wear that. And
So you do.
and then they did so much weird shit that was like, it was like you had to go to mass, you had to fucking eat the body and drink the blood and all of that shit. And there was like, I used to always get in trouble for throwing rocks, and they'd make you, and like, whatever else you fucking. I had like had a black book. I'm gonna go off Catholic school for a second. So they had a black book, and it wasn't even a black book. It looked like a white and black TV screen book. And so I painted it all black. I spray painted it all black, and I put a big part of it was a Marilyn Manson postcard. I put that on the front. It was the one with him in his angel fucking costume
Okay.
or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, that's better. And I remember I handed it in with the assignment because we did all our religion class went in the black book. It was like every time you'd sit in the religion class, you'd spend an hours doing religion class or whatever. And they'd say, take out your black book and do out this and fill this in and all that shit. So I would do that. And then they gave me the fucking book back, and the postcard was torn off at the front, and I had gone. They tore it off. The teacher tore it off the front. I was like, well, where's my fucking postcard? And she's like, you can't have that here. And I remember just being like, well, fuck you. I paid money for that shit. You got to give it back to me. She's like, you're not having it. I'm like, he's wearing a fucking loincloth. He's not even naked. And she's like, it's not appropriate for da 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 da. Anyways, I remember just like there was so many instances where it was like that. That was why, for at that time, I was like, my dad was a cop, and
Okay. Cool.
and my mom was a teacher. I had ADD, and I was on fucking heavy dose of Ritalin growing up, and
Yeah.
like for very young, like yeah, it's very
Yeah.
this Ritalin, and it'll make you this or that. So I was in Catholic school on Ritalin as a cop's kid. And my parents were like, you got to listen to the doctor and you listen to your teacher. It doesn't matter this or that. And I'd be in there and I'd be getting in shit constantly. And they send you this fucking room. You sit in there and it's like the Hail Mary room. There was a big picture of Mary on the wall. You always have to do your in school suspension there because they wanted to give you an in school suspension because they wanted you to sit there and fucking do their work or whatever the hell.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
sat in this fucking room, Hail Mary picture, right? I spent a lot of time in the Hail Mary room. That was why
yeah,
Marilyn Mann came out was a huge thing for me because nobody liked it in there. It was my teachers hated it, my parents hated it. It's the earliest thing, right? It was like I loved it because everybody fucking hated it. So I just dug it so much, right?
yeah,
And I listened to that shit. That's how through Maryland got me turned on to Nine Inch Nails, got me turned on to Skinny Puppy after that. You know, you kind of go through the ranks and shit,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the
Yeah,
older
you do.
them got into, right? So, anyways, top five albums. I totally have ADD. Can you tell?
No, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm like going.
That's good though.
They
I'm
told
enjoying
me,
listening to you. That's
okay, I'm
it.
just rambling.
We have
Skinny Pop,
5 minutes left according to the time, it
five.
says. I know,
Okay,
it's already been 40
okay.
minutes almost, believe it or not.
Downward Spiral, Marilyn Manson's Antichrist Superstar, Skinny Puppy's Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate. That's
Oh,
probably right. You got like First Aid, Addiction, Deep Down Trauma Hound. Something about the fucking drum sound and the weird samples and the eerie album cover. It's like everything. I got that on vinyl when I was super young. One of the first records I ever owned on vinyl. What's another one? Shit. The Unacceptable Face of Freedom by Test Department for the sampling alone is just like hugely influential. It's a masterpiece. Um, and I gotta say, I see good spirits, I see bad spirits by the Thrill Kill Cult.
oh,
That's one of the, for the whole overall sound of all those. So there's my basic top five.
I love the Thrill Coco. I think they're awesome.
Fucking love them.
Yeah, I can't wait till Thursday, man. I get to talk to the beat mistress, the drummer of Thrill Coco. So,
You're going
yeah.
to see them?
No,
Nice.
I'm gonna be no, I have an interview with her on Thursday.
Oh, you did? Oh,
No,
sweet.
I do. It's coming up.
Okay.
So it's all
I was
good.
just
So
actually texting with he was telling me how they've been playing fucking shows for days on end. They've been just did foul, and now they have a day of sort of. He's trying to rest, and they're all tired, and they're driving today. Can't remember where we're
you
going.
talking about Buzz?
Yeah, I think they're playing Colorado. Is that? Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. So, what's your favorite part of doing what you do, of doing your music? What's your favorite part? What do you get
My,
from it, and what do you want to give?
I just want people to hear it. I'd love it if people just listen to the fucking shit, you know, because sometimes I don't know if anybody cares. Facebook's my own sometimes there, besides when I actually press an album and go and pound the pavement with CDs, trying to sell CDs. It's like selling glasses to a blind, like, it's really hard to sell CDs unless people know who you are,
Yeah,
right? Um, the best part about it that I love about it, being able to create a world of my own that I can go to that is to me better than most of the rest of the world, you know. So
well,
it's
that's a
kind
good
of like
answer.